Hi, I'm Bill Paris, an editor at Brooklyn Vegan, and you are listening to BV Interviews, which features conversations with some of our favorite artists. This week, I'm talking with Alex Edkins, who you might know as the singer and guitarist for late great Toronto noise rock trio METZ, and who now makes insanely catchy but still noisy power pop as Weird Nightmare. His new album is titled Hoopla, and it's out now via Sub Pop. Alex and I discuss how Weird Nightmare came to be, how it coincided with METZ, and how the first Weird Nightmare album influenced the final METZ album. Other topics of conversation include METZ reforming not long after calling it quits to play John Mulaney's Netflix talk show, Alex's youth behind the counter as a record store clerk, moving from Toronto back to his hometown of Ottawa, working with Spoon's Jim Eno on Hoopla, records Alex thinks everyone should own, and more. I had a lot of fun talking with Alex, and I hope you enjoy listening to it. Here's my conversation with Alex Edkins, A Weird Nightmare. I'm excited to welcome to the show Alex Edkins, who spent most of the 2010s and early 2020s making ears bleed in METZ and is now exploring his pop side with Weird Nightmare. The project's second album, Hoopla, is out May 1st via Sub Pop. Alex, thanks for being here.
My pleasure.
How are you and where are you?
I'm doing all right. I'm home in Ottawa. Recently relocated to my hometown, Canada's capital city, 5 hours east of where I used to be. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
All right. And where you used to be was Toronto, right?
That's right. Yeah.
And what prompted the move?
A lot of things, really. One of the main ones being my wife getting a teaching position that she wanted to take. And then other things such as both of our families being here, change of scenery, all that stuff.
Got it. Nice. The last time I saw you was at METZ's final NYC show, which was at Bowery Ballroom a couple years ago, which I thought was fantastic. Do you remember anything about that night?
I don't know if I remember specifics. The last tour was blurry, emotional, and heavy. I mean, I always loved playing that room, and I always loved that crowd and that city. So, I mean, I can imagine, I can picture it, but it's blurry. New York, always one of our favorite places to hit, and big supporters from day one. So, yeah, I can imagine, some of those shows we'd get off stage and I'd just be like staring at the wall, right. Just, not sure what to make of it all.
Right. Because I mean, that tour, you had already announced that it would be your final tour and that the band was ceasing operations. So I'm sure in some ways it was a little weird, but also like nice.
Yeah. Both heavy emotionally and also, knowing that that's the smart thing to do at that point and the right thing to do for all three of us. So with our music, it was always so very intense and it was always so heavy. But at the core of it, I always think punk rock and hardcore and METZ, it was such a outpouring of positivity. At least that's what it was for me. And I hope it was that for our crowd, So that show, just like every other one, is like this undeniably positive event in my life. And, but it had that undertone of, holy shit, this is it for New York. So yeah, that seems like a lifetime ago, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I don't have any specific recollections other than, that glow, that positive energy that comes with every METZ show and most live shows. I think there's a magic there, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say it was better than the last time I saw you at Bowery Ballroom, which was when you toured with Preoccupations and maybe somebody else. Was it a triple lineup?
Could have been Fax.
Right, Fax. And literally everyone I knew at that show, including myself, got COVID.
Oh, God. Yeah, I think I remember our friends in A Place to Bury Strangers.
Yep.
At that show, and then calling us after and just being like, I know that you're on the road and you have to do all of these cross borders and it's really stressful, and we really tried our best, but we're all sick. We're all positive with COVID. And it was like, oh man, like that was a very hard time to be on the road, and probably, not the thing to be doing, but we had this record out that we wanted to share with people. So yeah, not sure if that was the thing to do or not, really. Like confusing to think of.
I actually blame my COVID on going to see LCD Sound System a few nights before. So I don't think that show was necessarily a super spreader event, but
yeah, let's not call it a super spreader, okay?
Yeah. Not to go down memory lane too much, but I just thought about this. I think the first time I saw you, saw METZ, was at Death by Audio in Brooklyn. And I want to say that you guys blew the power, or the power blew during your set. Does that ring a bell?
That rings a bell. We did a handful of shows there. That was our entry kind of into a certain group of bands and people that we met, and then we call them friends and family now. But like, yeah, those are some of the funnest shows ever, when the crowd can't even move. We were packed in so tight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's funny. Hayden and Chris are better with specifics, as far as like they would know for sure if the power went out. But for me, I'm like, I'm not totally sure, but I could imagine that happening in that room.
I feel like it was in like July, it was just super hot, and everybody was sweaty. And at some point, like, it just all went quiet, and the power came back on in like 10 minutes, but it was a very memorable moment.
It's possible that that's even caught on tape, because there's a compilation record, Build Your Own Venue or something, that Ollie and people did. And I think when we were listening back to like what song to put on it, I think, yeah, you're right, that there's like, that's caught on tape, where it's just kind of like 15 minutes where we had to figure it out and finish off the show.
Yeah. How has the last 2 years been since you did your last show on that tour? Quiet?
No, the idea was for it to be quiet, and I'm not good at that. So no, it's been, I like to be really busy, and I like to be working on something kind of at all times. And so that hasn't changed. It's been a really busy period of time. And of course, the move is a big change, and also took a lot of energy, and both exciting and freaky to be going back home, but also to be leaving the place that me and my family had been living for a good 20 years. So,
right.
Yeah, lots of changes, but not quiet. I wouldn't call it that.
Also, like during those last 2 years, METZ briefly got back together when you guys played John Mulaney's Everybody's Live show. How did that happen?
Yeah, so that was bizarre and super fun. Kind of on a Hollywood soundstage, and seeing how all that works was exciting and eye-opening. And the way it happened, I think that idea had been floated to us for quite a while. Sometimes these things take forever to get confirmed. That was one of them, where I think before we had said, okay, this is going to be our last tour, that had been floated. It wasn't coming out of nowhere when it did, in fact, get offered to us. And I think it was something we all said, that if that came down like that, if that opportunity came, that we would say yes, as a fun kind of and bizarre way to close things. My bandmates are big fans of John, and I wasn't too familiar with his stuff, but amazing guy, lovely guy. And we learned when we were there that he is a total, METZ fan. He's talking about listening to our live records, and he knew the whole catalog. And so it was really cool to meet him and to see him do his thing, and to meet Conan and other people like that, like real Hollywood stars. Is like a total trip. So not to mention the idea of playing live to air is, I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. Is terrifying. And like my mind blanked right before my first line, like of a song that I had sang hundreds of times. I got the word out, but I'm not sure how it came out. It was just kind of like muscle memory, I think. So yeah, that experience for a lot of reasons was wild, and something I'm glad we did.
That show is not your average talk show, which, most talk shows tape at like 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and then they air at 12:30 that show goes live, and it's a very freewheeling show. And
yeah, really cool to see. I love to see the amount of people involved in a production like that. All the people that he was employing, and in this day and age, I just thought it harkened back to old Hollywood. And they were doing their dress rehearsals. They were, people were making a living doing this style of live TV. And it was cool, like really cool to see. And sadly, I think there's probably not very much of that happening.
So let's talk about Weird Nightmare. When your first album came out 3 years ago, I remember listening to you on Vish Khanna's podcast, Creative Control, and you said that Weird Nightmare was about embracing the hook. And that sounds to me even more true on Hoopla.
Yeah, it's pretty direct songwriting for sure. I think the intention is get straight to that endorphin rush that comes with like a hook or a chorus, and just not over complicating the songs. Yeah, I love that type of thing, and then that's naturally what the songs became when I sat down to play them and to write them. So yeah, lots of big choruses and pretty snappy and short tracks is what you're going to find on that record.
Yeah, most are in between like 2 and 3 minutes long, I want to say.
Well, it's funny. Most, yes, but then there's a couple that I'm kind of surprised when I look at the runtime. There's like 4.5 minute tracks, and so I'd say there's about three or so that are deceivingly long, even though I wouldn't say that they're taking these big twists and turns or anything. Yeah, they're not all super short, but they are, I think, all trying to get you to the top of the mountain where you get that sugar rush.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The first album was kind of mid-fi, lo-fi, but this one, I would almost call it sparkling in a good way, of course. And I'm sure this was more of like a studio record, right?
Yeah, it's true. I mean, the first record was me in a room during COVID lockdown with pretty limited gear. So it was a bedroom project that I later put drums on top of and mixed, like after the fact, did some overdubs. But this one was done all in a week for the most part, live in a great studio called Machines with Magnets, where METZ had done the last 2 records, working with Seth Manchester, who's a dear friend and awesome engineer, awesome mixer. So yeah, I went in hoping to make a great sounding record, big sounding, wide, with the full range of fidelity there. So I think we did that because I really like how it sounds, and that had a lot to do with the players that I had with me and Jim Eno and Seth. Like, I think they all crushed it, and it was not a difficult process to work with people so talented,
You mentioned Jim Eno, and he's, of course, of Spoon and a producer in his own right. How did you hook up with him?
It was a serendipitous thing. He was moving back to Providence after living in Austin and having a studio in Austin for years and years. And Seth, I think we had booked our week together. Like, we knew when I was going to be down there. And he had mentioned that Jim was moving back and setting up a new studio. So I got my nerve up, just cold called him and asked if he wanted to produce. And he was all in and, brought in all kinds of great guitars and tape echoes and farfisas and stuff from the Spoon gear. And yeah, it was a really seamless, easy, fun thing. I got to shout out Roddy Richmond on bass and Lowell Campbell on drums, who rounded out the band and were just so great to work with. And 2-3 takes, and we had something that we were all stoked on. So really fun.
So mostly recorded live in the studio?
Yeah, as far as the 3, like guitar, bass, drums, yes, all live. And then I did take the recordings back home to another studio at that time in Toronto and did some vocals and did some dubs and stuff. So pretty standard stuff.
Yeah, I wasn't sure who played on the record. Like the credits on Tidal are pretty spare, so I wasn't sure who all was on there. So interesting.
Like per song, it's just Roddy, Lowell, and then Graham Walsh, my buddy from Noble Rot. He plays
Holy
piano
fuck.
on a track. Jim Eno plays percussion on most of the songs, and then Juliana Riolino sings, is featured on one track and sings harmony on another. So
Right.
that's the team.
Okay, got it. Had you had a stockpile of maybe riffs or song ideas that you were just never METZ appropriate that you were pulling from, or was this record written post METZ?
It was written during METZ. It was finished. The recording was finished actually before the last METZ tour. So this was not something that I set out to do after METZ called it. It was actually already done. And I pushed back the release of this quite a bit so that I could take some time not on the road and to do the move and everything. So I think I pushed it back at least a year, just to make sure that I wasn't rushing into anything. Like I said, like I prefer to be busy, but I think it was a good idea to pump the brakes as far as being out on the road for sure and just performing it live in general. So
does that also maybe mean that a third record is already like in the ether or on tape?
there's songs. There's definitely new music recorded. I don't know what it is though. I don't know if it's an LP or what. But yeah, it's it's always a work in progress.
Not to mix your bands together again, but would it be fair to say that the first Weird Nightmare album influenced Up on Gravity Hill? I feel like it was so much brighter than Atlas Vending, which was a dark and tightly wound METZ record.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it did. I think it putting out the first Weird Nightmare record and going different places musically really inspired me to continue doing that. It was really exciting to go and try new things melodically and on guitar. I think there's no way to deny that it was like me sort of feeling empowered in a way to do new things and bring them to the band. And with METZ, it's always a democracy. So it's not like it was just me doing that and Hayden and Chris not being on board. They were there and into that idea of METZ growing too, our sound growing. Certainly some of like the harmonies and layers that we were doing on Up on Gravity Hill are, I think, directly related to the first Weird Nightmare record because I had sort of tested it. I knew how to do it, and I knew that I could do it, I suppose, and how it would work. So yeah, there's definitely a correlation there.
The press notes for the album mentioned that you worked in a record store, and maybe that informed how these songs came out. Where was the store and what were the years?
It was called Record Runners on Rideau Street in Ottawa, and it would have been maybe 2000 to 2005 or something like that. That's a rough time period. But yeah, so I loved working at that shop. It was really good fun and kind of was able to dive into all kinds of new things, as you do. Just seeing what people are bringing up to the counter, checking it out, or just listening to the promo CDs that are coming in. And you just get to see every new album that was being sent out by the labels. It was fascinating and exciting.
Did it actually have an influence on this record? No. Other than just that I'm kind of a record collector like so many others, where you just have this sort of hunger for everything out there. I just want to hear it all and I want to consume it and enjoy it. And I think this record could be perceived as sort of a mixtape vibe in some ways. I like that idea. I like the idea that, or a singles collection crossed my mind at one point. I wanted each song to be like single worthy, but
I don't think they're necessarily samey in their vibe as well. So like, I think there's many ways to make a great record. That can be like you create an environment where people are living within it, or it's more like a travelogue where you're being taken to all these other places or all these other feelings. So I think it would be more of like the second idea, where it's a bit of a mixtape trip that I was hoping to have.
Right. I do think pretty much every song on this record could be a single in some world, you know?
Yeah.
Really
yeah.
cool.
Cool.
The early 2000s were a pretty exciting time for Canadian music and maybe just music in general. Did you ever manage a high fidelity moment where you put on a record and sold 5 copies of something instantly? And if so, what was it?
Oh man, I'm sure that happened. I'll say that I think my big memories was just, so my roommate at the time, he became the Arcade Fire drummer right when Funeral was blowing up. And I just remember going back to our apartment and being like, I just sold like 60 copies of your record today. And it was like every day. It was really something to see. That's when, you know, I at that time I had been in some bands, but like Merge Records would be a huge label in my mind. And same with things like, I don't know, even things like Polyvinyl or Jade Tree or these. I was like, wow, unbelievable that people I knew were putting out records on these labels and stuff. It was the coolest and kind of the only end goal for any musician at that time, I think. But yeah, as far as high fidelity, that was it. Sort of just seeing this Canadian band absolutely exploding and like people walking in, and I kind of knew what they were coming in to get. I just had a stack of them at the desk. I was like, here you go.
Yeah, I know that when the Pitchfork review came out, basically that caused the album to sell out. Like, and Merge had to do like a second pressing pronto.
Yeah, like pretty unprecedented stuff.
Wild days. As to your saying that like the album has a mixtape vibe, I was gonna say that you can still hear a lot of punk, but there's a lot of 60s and 70s on this record to me. Like Might See You There is almost a Cheap Trick song to my ears.
Cool. Yeah, I kind of just follow my instincts, and I certainly do love the 70s power pop, like the Cars. And when I've put out that first record, actually, Jonathan Poneman from Sub Pop said, I think you've been listening to Cheap Trick. And I was like, no, not really. But that's like a band that I think one generation older than me really adores. Just like how my generation, I can't really understand why everyone loves Kiss, but they do. Like, I still haven't cracked Cheap Trick and why they're so adored. Although, you know, there's obvious moments that I go, wow, that's incredible. But as far as like their records go,
I'm the same way, actually.
Yeah, it's never been like a one that I turn to, but I'd take it as a compliment because, like I said, I know so many people who absolutely adore them and hold them like way up here, you know.
There's also maybe a little, I don't know if this was intentional or not, there's maybe a little Teenage Fan Club in there with like, there's a guitar line that wah, 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 that feels like maybe it's like Star Sign.
Cool. I mean,
I don't know.
So I love Teenage Fan Club, and I listen to tons and tons of Teenage Fan Club. So that's very, very possible.
Yeah.
With those double bends that you're referring to, it's funny because I think of a Canadian band called Treble Charger that used those a lot. I don't know if you're familiar with them.
I know the name.
Yeah, they were kind of an indie rock band in the 90s that I think were probably influenced by Sebado or Sonic Youth, but then became very much a Sum 41 type of pop punk band later as they were going for big success. But anyway, those double bends are like something that we're hearing a lot over here in Canada on Much Music because of bands like Treble Charger.
Right.
Yeah.
You mentioned Much Music, and like during that era, the CBC and Much Music, the government basically forced them to play lots of Canadian content, right? To keep America's influence at least a little bit at bay. So you guys all got all sorts of bands that never quite trickled down to America.
Exactly. I mean, and I'm so glad we did, because I mean the East Coast scene in Canada at that time, Murder Records, so your Sloans and Inbreds, Super Friends, Eric's Trip.
Yeah. Jail.
Those bands were all happening, and we were getting those pushed on us through Much Music and our TVs. And that's still a sound that you hear with tons of Canadian bands, and definitely with me. I mean, I definitely love all of that stuff. And so that was a good thing to come from the CRTC, which was the Canadian Radio Television Commission or something.
Right.
So, that sound, that kind of love of Creation Records, but then with a Canadian sort of, I don't know what else would be in there, but those bands made a big impact on most Canadian musicians that I know.
Were you a Thrush Hermit fan at all?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So Michael Catano, who drummed live with Weird Nightmare on the first tours we did, he was the drummer in Thrush Hermit for a little while. Yeah.
Okay.
Like one of my first memories of learning a song in a basement with friends is doing French Inhale by Thrush Hermit, which they had a video for. Yeah, so that stuff runs deep.
They're a band that most Americans don't know. So I should just say right now, you should go check out Thrush Hermit. Very cool mid-90s indie rock band.
Yes. And Joel Plaskett does very well as sort of a singer-songwriter in Canada still. But again, maybe not as well known in the States.
You got any other deep cut Canadian recommendations?
Oh boy. If we're East Coast, Dog Day, great East Coast indie rock that not many people know about, that I would check out.
Okay. Another song I really like off the record is If You Should Turn Away, which feels very 60s to me. There's some Beatles stuff in there, maybe some like girl group type stuff. Any decent story behind that one?
No, but that's my favorite one, I'd say. That's the one I'm really proud of. I don't think I've ever done a full-on acoustic song in that way before. So that was something I'm really pleased with how that turned out. Yeah, I guess just the British invasion stuff and then like the Nuggets 60s garage stuff from the States, just always been a huge influence. It's what I turn to a lot of the time for just listening pleasure, So yeah, some of those chord changes you're hearing some British invasion, I think, for sure. And also quite pleased with how that baritone solo in the middle turned out. Just kind of fluked on a setting on a Lowett. I'm going to forget the name of it, but it's a New York City pedal company. Well, I might have to go downstairs and find it. And anyway, just pleased with how it all sounds, with some cool experimentation that whenever you're making new ground with songwriting or recording or things, that's what really the end goal, and it gets you excited at the end of the day.
I mentioned a couple things that I thought your songs reminded me of, or are there any like actual like, all right, I'm sticking this little thing in here as a nod to a group that I love that?
Not coming to mind.
Okay, good.
No.
You called Forever Elsewhere your most optimistic song ever, or at least in the press notes you did. What can you tell me about that one?
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, the line is, love, it will come. And it was just, I find myself nowadays trying to not be a grump, not being a curmudgeon, although it's really hard. I think that's my natural setting. But like that idea, I'm a dad now, and just seeing what the world's like now for kids to grow up in, and wanting to put something out there that's like at the end of the day positive in its message. I think that was something that I wanted to do and did with that song. I mean, that's not to say that young kids are going to listen to my music, but
Right.
but I still felt the need to do that. And with a lot of these songs, I do want it to be, I wanted it to be a spring album, you know, I wanted it to make people happy. And I hope that doesn't sound too cheesy, but you know, those chord changes and choruses, it's like when I hear a great hook, it makes me smile, makes me happy. And so I think there's behind a lot of it is just sort of that for me. Like I've been through it where making music had become not fun, you know? And so I made sure that this was a lot of fun, and hopefully it's fun to listen to.
You're saying it's a spring album. I have definitely gotten advances of records where I hear the album and I'm like, why is this coming out in October? This should be a May record. This should be played everywhere in the summer. So that was a conscious decision that you didn't want it coming out till like May?
You know, it sounds like bullshit, but it's true. I've never really, I don't know if METZ ever did that, but this time around we did, because like I said, I was taking my sweet time. And when we were discussing it, I was like, it does feel like, okay, the first beautiful day, you could have this in your headphones and you'd be walking down the main street and you'd feel awesome. And that was definitely some of the rationale. There's a lot of things that go into deciding when to put out a record, obviously, but that was one of them.
Okay. As far as optimism go, I was going to say that Bright City Lights might rival it, but then I read the lyrics and there's some darkness there. And I think the line, "One thing's for sure, I don't live here anymore," is probably the key line to that song. Am I right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's about the magnetism of the city and how undeniable and exciting and pulls me in every time. And then realizing maybe that it's not the place you need to be right now, and grappling with that. So yeah, it's about leaving a place you love. And in this case, it being Toronto and, you know, all of the cool things that it entails. So,
right.
I think the sound of that song is super up and super bright. But some of the lyrics are a little bit more pushing and pulling, like not sure where it stands, you know?
Right. And that's the song that's the duo with Juliana Riolino, who also sings on another song. And you played on her 2025 album, Echo in the Dust.
Yep. Yeah, we did a little trade-off. I played on 3 of her songs. I played some guitar. And we had met when Weird Nightmare was opening up for Daniel Romano and the Outfit over in Scandinavia. We did a cool Netherlands, Scandinavia tour. Super fun. They're a scorching band. And that's when I met Roddy and Juliana. And so we just did a little trade, you know, no payment, just you do some on mine, I'll do some on yours. And I think she's fantastic, amazing voice. And I would recommend people go check out her band when they come through.
Tell me about the title of the album, Hoopla.
I think it's just my way of explaining all of the stuff that comes with making music. It's kind of, if you're not the right personality, and I would say that I'm sort of not, I'm not looking for the limelight or anything. I find it super stressful and uncomfortable. So all of the things that you're asked to do around making music are this thing. And I guess I called it Hoopla, being like referring to that stuff. And not to mention a lot of what we just see around us, the day-to-day life, modern life, you know. It's a lot of bells and whistles and nonsense that is taking our focus away. So I think it's just a little of both of those for the title.
Right. I'm a little bit older than you. I'm full Gen X, and the word hoopla to me makes me think of Starship's 1985 album Knee Deep in the Hoopla, which of course features the hit "We Built This City on Rock and Roll." Are you saying that you feel knee deep in the hoopla sometimes?
You bet. I think that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
So, Weird Nightmare is a band now, right?
Yes, I mean, I have a band and we
Okay,
are
that's what
touring. Yeah.
I didn't see the tour for the first record. I don't know if this is the same lineup. So, tell me about like who's in the band, what's going on as far as that goes.
Yeah, the first record we did do some touring, like I said, overseas, and we did some tours with Archers of Loaf, but it was minimal because METZ was still going like going strong, and we were on the road quite a lot. So this time around, with the release of the record in May, we'll be out there most of spring and summer doing US, Canadian, UK, and Euro dates, like festival dates at the end of the summer. So I'm really excited. We just released a video that shows the live band in all its glory. It's Jesse Latterroot on guitar, Roddy on bass, who played on the record, and then Pete Landy and Roddy play with Juliana. So I'm stealing her rhythm section.
Got it.
And but Pete wasn't on the recording of the album, so that's the difference there. But yeah, it's a great group of players and people, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and I hope people want to come check it out.
You played Toronto in January. Did I see that? Or is
Yes.
Setlist FM lie to me?
No, it did not lie. We play with Sharp Pins.
Oh, okay. That's a extremely on point pairing.
It was a lovely night of music, I'd say. I'm blown away by that band, and Kai's recording and songwriting is like definitely one of my favorite things over the last, I'd say, 2 years. So that was a great pairing and a lot of fun.
METZ were very, very, very loud. How loud are Weird Nightmare?
Well, it's still a rock band for sure. I think when you're trying to sing tight harmonies, it's in your best interest to tone it down a little bit, but it's still a loud rock band for sure. It's like, crunchy and distorted. Yeah, that whole thing with METZ, that's just the way we naturally played. It was like truly not our intention. We had a drummer, Hayden, who, as you saw us, he's just a different type of beast. Uh-huh. And so Chris and I had to crank our amps up to crazy levels. And I mean that's what I want at a rock show, to be honest. I want to feel the sound waves too, and the vibrations, and so I still love that. I still want to do that.
Yeah. I mean, METZ shows you could feel it in your chest.
Yeah.
Alex, I think that's about it. Is there anything else that our listeners or myself should know?
I don't think so.
All right. We end every interview asking our guest if they could pick 5 records that they think everyone should own. I don't know if you're ready for this or not, but that's the question I'm posing to you.
I have a pile of records next to me.
Okay. All right. Visual accompaniment. This will make editing for me.
Can I do more than 5?
You can do as many as you want.
Okay, I'm not going to be too wordy, but I'm just going to, and some of these I know you said that everyone should own. I tried to pick ones that maybe aren't as well known, but that people would enjoy, I think. Not too obscure, but
sounds
here
great.
we go. So first one, The Saints, Unstranded, Australian maximum rock and roll. If you like the Stooges, I think you'll love this. If you like the Buzzcocks, I think you'll love this. Truly a wonderful album front to back. And Mark Arm from Mudhoney was recently touring with them as front man. And I was very sad not to go see it. He invited me out, and I was in a new city, so I couldn't go. But check this one out if you don't know it. Like I said, if you like Iggy and the Stooges, you'll like this. Big influence on this record, on Hoopla, my new record, would be the Undertones. Very fun, sort of lighthearted, Ramones-inspired punk from Ireland. Pretty well known. I expect most of Brooklyn vegan people to know this, but anyway, I love it very much. And it was kind of what I turned to as far as keeping things light in my mind and straight to the point as far as my songwriting on this record goes. Talking about the garage scene of the 60s and the British invasion type stuff, the crossover for me, like the Nuggets vibe. This is a big one. Rocky Erickson, kind of LSD, Texas rock and roll. Doesn't get much better than this. What else can I say about that? Saw Rocky play with the Sadies in Toronto once as the backing band, and it was as good as you would assume. Okay, I got some more here.
Have you ever thought about adding psychedelic jug band to any of your songs?
Yeah, well, not yet, but electric jug, right?
Yeah, right.
This next one, I really enjoy. It's John Bryan. I think that's how you pronounce his last name. Meaningless. He is world-renowned film composer and producer, having worked with Kanye West, Amy Mann, you name it.
Anderson,
Elliott Smith, I think. And this is his debut solo record. And it is kind of a masterclass, in my opinion, of melody and songcraft, but also like really lighthearted and fun. It's sort of like if you know the early Paul McCartney solo records, how they're very quirky, but clearly a master at work. That's the kind of vibe. I'd say like McCartney 2 kind of thing. Very cool. I would check that out. Love that. James Carr, 60s R&B. I chose this one because this is a reissue, but I chose this one because it's one of those albums that early morning, late at night, doesn't matter. Fantastic singer. I think he was in the Soul Stirrers, and just the band, the vibe, so good. What's the track? Dark End of the Street on this one is one that was later covered by Graham Parsons and the Burrito Brothers. Probably that's on like their big record, Gilded Palace. So nice kind of cool R&B country crossover there. I love when that happens, when you see like a great song be covered by many different types of artists. So
nice.
Awesome album. And this one, Insignificance by Jim O'Rourke, who was in Gaster del Sol early on and then ended up in Sonic Youth, and is just sort of
Tortoise.
Yeah, like such an interesting musician. I didn't realize this, but Jeff Tweedy and Glenn from Wilco are on this album, and so you can think of it as sort of like a Loose Fur record in some ways. It has a similar sound and vibe, and I think any kind of Wilco fans who love Yankee Hotel Foxtrot will probably hear like the approach to production on here. And these are a little bit more out there kind of songs, but they're great, laid back rock and roll. Very cool.
Does that album have the cover of Burt Bacharach's Something Big on it?
Let me check.
I get confused because some of his album covers look similar.
It might be the Eureka one.
Right.
What was the title you said?
Something Big? Yeah, it may have been Eureka.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it on here.
Okay. We got more?
I do, but I don't want to take all your time.
Okay. You got maybe one more that's like the pick of the bunch?
Oh, boy. Let's do this one. So this is not a record that everyone needs to have, but it is a record that was big for me and all my friends in Ottawa when we fell in love with hardcore and punk rock music. It's Shotmaker. They're from Belleville/Ottawa. And around the time I was going to basement shows and stuff, they were a huge influence on all the people making music. Kind of in the world of Discord Records, lesser known bands maybe, like Hoover or Lungfish or something in the way they approach it. A big influence, I would say, on METZ, because Hayden later joined a band, or started a band with the singer of this band called Three Penny Opera. So it was kind of like in the same world that we came from, where METZ came from was this. So I would, if you're into emo or hardcore, like Sleepy Time Trio or 400 Years, all that stuff, you'd probably love this. And I don't think they get as much maybe attention as some of the other big names, but they were very influential where I come from.
Great list, Alex.
Thanks. Yeah, that's fun.
All right. That's going to do it. This has been a lot of fun talking with you.
Thank you so much.
And congratulations on the new album. It's called Hoopla, and Weird Nightmare will be on tour in a city near you this spring and summer. Alex, thanks again.
My pleasure. Thanks so much.
Okay, thanks again to Alex Edkins for being on this week's show. Weird Nightmare's great new album, Hoopla, is out now on Sub Pop, and the band are currently on tour on the West Coast and will hit the rest of North America in June. While I have you, be sure to check out our other podcast, BV Weekly, where my coworkers Dave and Andrew, and sometimes myself and Amanda, discuss the week's hot button music news, the latest releases, and more. You can also follow Brooklyn Vegan on social media, and if you like this episode, be sure to tell your musically minded friends about it, as well as doing all those other things, like, subscribe, write us a review, give us 5 stars, all that kind of stuff. It really does help us reach more ears. Big thanks to our mix engineer, Nick Gray, and Michael Silverstein for the theme music. I'm Bill Paris. Thanks for listening.